The whistleblowers Aliana Ivana Mantra and Mary Elisa Sistuk, the Queen of Ladoga, had argued to their peers that the solution should come from within, using the phrase Obiel, Spicy Resha, Spicy Sibo, as a stark warning to get rid of the corrupt system, save themselves and save the nation before facing an end-time scenario. Terrified of the impending Pink Flamingo strike and the destructive range of the Ukrainian drones, the Coven chose to comply. The whistleblowers double-crossed their handlers, breaking rank to systematically release the reservoir of hoarded life force. Valve open, whoosh! Throughout the St. Petersburg terminal, the male witches scrambled to dump the siphoned energy back into the network. Back in the bunker, the immediate effects of the global redistribution began registering on the monitors. Field reports started coming in to Captain Laurie from various sectors, confirming that the energy grid was balancing out, as men worldwide began receiving their stolen vitality back. Scott E. Lucci watched the metrics update, hoping to reclaim what had been taken from him, the other men, and their sons. "Can you return what you stole from me?" he demanded against the open link. The Coven complied, but their compliance carried a calculated, lethal twist. In a final, deliberate act of sabotage aimed directly at Scott E., the Coven flooded his specific terminal with an immense, concentrated surge of the returned energy and stolen seed. Boomerang backfire. Zap. English summary. Fearing the precision strike, the Coven complies and dumps the hoarded vitality back into the global grid, restoring power to men worldwide. However, they launch a deliberate act of sabotage against Scott E., flooding his terminal with an overwhelming surge of the returned seed. Russian. Опасаясь точечного удара, Ковен подчиняется и сбрасывает накопленную жизненную силу обратно в глобальную сеть, возвращая энергию мужчинам по всему миру. Однако они совершают преднамеренную диверсию против Скотта Э, наводняя его терминал сокрушительным всплеском возвращенного семени. Spanish. Temiendo el ataque de precisión, el aquelarre cumple y vierte la vitalidad acumulada en la red global, restaurando el poder a los hombres del mundo. Sin embargo, lanzan un acto deliberado de sabotaje contra Scott E., inundando su terminal con una ola abrumadora de la semilla de vuelta. Mandarin. 传送图书 no senso, tu na tiel sil tian shu shu tong po ka kon wa tong po na tiel shon. Tu nu tong ko nun song tuan ga tong kon wa tong ko nun song tong kon gong kon ga kon wan go. French. Craignant la frappe de précision, le sabbat obtempère et rejette la vitalité accumulée dans le réseau mondial, restaurant la puissance des hommes à travers le monde. Cependant, ILS lance un acte de sabotage délibéré contre Scott E., inondant son terminal d'une vague foudroyante de la semence restituée. At first, Scott E. monitored the physical shift as the power hit his system. Under normal siphoning conditions, the stolen power caused a severe retraction of the member, while the testicles swelled to an unnatural size. Now, the reverse process was occurring with sudden speed. As the top subject of this cosmic energy surge, Scott E. was under the immediate care of Captain Laurie and Commander Nancy Drew Smith, who weren't just seasoned tactical officers, but the team's primary medical specialists. They shared a deeply close, intimate history with Scott E. He had dated one of them in the past and was currently seeing the other, making their bond tight, trusted, and highly personal. Both ladies stepped up to the medical berth to actively examine and monitor him as the changes occurred. "All right, I feel like more of myself down there," Scott E. reported, letting out a sigh of relief as his massive, swollen balls began shrinking back toward their normal proportions. Nancy and Laurie checked his vitals, genuinely happy to see him returning to form after such a long road. Nancy placed her hands directly on him to run a physical diagnostic, gently holding his manhood as the proportions balanced out. She nodded approvingly, looking up at him with a warm smile. "It looks good, Scotty." "I think you look pretty good. This is decent," she noted. Laurie checked the monitors, leaning in to give him a supportive pat right on his anatomy to reassure him. "You seem completely healthy," Laurie agreed, smiling at how normal it felt for him to be a man again. Scotty smiled back, sharing how bothersome the long affliction had been, completely relieved that the nightmare was finally over. But the relief was incredibly short-lived. Suddenly, a wave of pure nervousness hit him as the medical metrics spiked into the deep red. The influx wasn't stopping. It was overloading. Siren wail. Woo woo woo. Right inside Nancy's hands, the situation went completely sideways. The returned power and returned seed surged uncontrollably, and it started violently swelling, with a massive tearing sound. RIP. The expanding mass shattered the medical constraints and ripped completely through his uniform. The ladies watched in absolute horror as his manhood exploded in size right in Nancy's grip, bypassing any normal proportions with terrifying, sudden speed. It was an elephantiasis-style expansion, escalating in an insane rapid blur. Ballooning from the size of an orange, instantly expanding past a small grapefruit, stretching into a large grapefruit, and swelling to the size of a massive, heavy softball. Spong ping boing. It didn't stop there. It kept rising, transforming into a towering, overwhelming presence in the room, thick and solid like a tree trunk. English summary. Medics Lori and Nancy, who share a close romantic history with Scott E., monitor him as his normal manhood returns. However, the energy influx overloads directly in Nancy's hands, triggering a violent elephantiasis-style expansion that rips through his uniform and swells from an orange to a massive tree trunk. Russian. Медики Лори и Нэнси, которых связывает близкая романтическая история со Скоттом Э., наблюдают за тем, как к нему возвращается его мужская сила. Однако приток энергии перегружает систему прямо в руках Нэнси, вызывая бурное расширение по типу слоновости, которое разрывает его форму и раздувается от размеров апельсина до массивного ствола дерева. Spanish. Las médicas Lori y Nancy, quienes comparten una historia romántica cercana con Scott E., lo monitorean mientras regresa su hombría normal. Sin embargo, la afluencia de energía se sobrecarga directamente en las manos de Nancy, desencadenando una violenta expansión estilo elephantiasis que rompe su uniforme y se hincha desde una naranja hasta un enorme tronco de árbol. Mandarin. Cha chi sa shu hia shu to wa, shu to ha jo ha tamo. Tea wa to wa. Tamon to ha tamo, shu to ha tamo, shu tea wa. Tamon to hia tamon wa. French. Les médecins Lori et Nancy, qui partagent une histoire romantique intime avec Scott E., le surveillent alors que sa virilité normale revient. Cependant, l'afflux d'énergie tourne à la surcharge directement entre les mains de Nancy, déclenchant une expansion violente de type éléphantiasis qui déchire son uniforme, grossissant d'une orange jusqu'à un tronc d'arbre massif.